All right, let's get into it. First off, you got to give credit where it's due. The Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots are heading to the Super Bowl, and that alone is a big deal. It's one of those moments where you sit back and think, okay, these teams did something right, and even if you don't agree with everything they do, you can't deny the results. And you know what makes it even more interesting? The fact that Milton Williams is back in the spotlight. This guy went to the Patriots in the offseason, and now he's once again in the Super Bowl picture. It's wild when you think about it, because he has a chance to do something that not many players get to do. He could end up joining the ranks of guys like Chris Long, who won with the Eagles and then later with the Patriots. That kind of career arc is rare, and it shows you how quickly things can change in the NFL when you make the right moves at the right time. Now, the Eagles can learn a lot from both the Seahawks and the Patriots, but the lessons are different. Starting with the Seahawks, you've got to respect what they did, especially on the offensive side of the ball. There are two big takeaways here, and one of them is turnovers. I'm talking about turnovers in a way that people often misunderstand. Everyone's always preaching, no turnovers, like that's the gospel, but sometimes that mentality becomes a cage. Look at Sam Darnold and what he did last season. He entered the playoffs with the most turnovers among quarterbacks, throwing 25 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. On paper, that doesn't look great. But the Seahawks didn't panic, and they didn't overcorrect. They let him play. They didn't suffocate him with a fear of mistakes. That's the kind of trust and confidence that you don't see enough of in this league. And that brings me to what I think the Eagles did wrong. We got stuck in this chokehold of no turnovers to the point where it affected everything. We stopped taking shots. We stopped playing the way that makes our offense dangerous. When you have elite receivers like Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, you should be willing to take those 70-30 chances. Not everything has to be a perfectly safe pass. But for some reason, we shifted into this mode where we only threw to guys who were basically open. No risk, no reward. And it changed the identity of the team. We became conservative, and it killed us. It wasn't just one game, it was a trend. It was like we forgot how to be aggressive. Remember after the Rams game, when Jalen Hurts went on that little rant? He said something along the lines of, "We've got to stop being so conservative." It was uncharacteristic for him, but it was real. It was a moment where you could see the frustration bubbling up. And then what happened? We went right back into that same conservative style. It's like we didn't learn anything. Now, don't get me wrong, you can't ignore the fact that wins are wins. Every victory matters. But you also have to recognize when your team is playing with the brakes on. It's not just about winning. It's about winning the way you're supposed to win. And in that first half of the season, we didn't look like ourselves. We didn't look like the team that's built to compete at the highest level. But the second half showed something different. You saw the team come alive. You saw what happens when the offense gets out of its own way and starts playing. The energy changes. The confidence changes. The team looks like a real football team again. And that's what matters. Because when you're talking about being a contender, you can't afford to play like you're scared of your own shadow. The Seahawks didn't do that. They let Darnold play through mistakes, and it paid off. That's a lesson the Eagles should take seriously. You can't build a championship offense by constantly putting a safety net underneath it. At some point, you've got to let the quarterback be a quarterback. And this isn't just about Jalen Hurts either. It goes back further. The Eagles have had a history of playing too safe with their quarterbacks. Even when they had Kyler Murray, when they had Kellen Moore, there was a point where he let loose, and it worked. The last two games of the season, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, were proof of what can happen when you stop being timid. But before that, the offense was playing like it was afraid of making mistakes. And it's not just one coordinator either. You look at the past few offensive coordinators, and for the most part, they didn't let Hurts play. They didn't let him use his legs. They didn't let him push the ball downfield. It's like they were always trying to keep him in a box. Shane Steichen was one of the few who actually let him play, and it showed. So yeah, give the Seahawks respect. They did what the Eagles didn't do. They trusted the quarterback, and they allowed the offense to take risks. And in today's NFL, if you're not willing to take risks, you're going to get left behind. The game is too fast, too competitive, and too unpredictable. You need to be willing to let your guys make plays. That's what championship teams do. They don't win by being overly cautious. They win by being bold. Now, Switching over to the Patriots, the lesson is different, but just as important. People might argue with this, and that's fine. But you can't deny what the Patriots did. They took a risk, and it paid off. They were in a situation where they had to admit something that not many organizations want to admit. The system wasn't working anymore. Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches of all time, and his winning percentage is off the charts. But at some point, even the greatest need a reset. The Patriots recognized that the team wasn't getting anywhere with the same formula, and they made a bold decision. They moved on. They went through a transition period, and eventually they found a coach who could rebuild the team and get them back to the Super Bowl. That's the kind of bold thinking the Eagles need to consider. The conversation around Nick Sirianni is always heated, but you have to look at the bigger picture. Yes, he's had a lot of wins. Yes, the roster is stacked. But you can't ignore the fact that the team has shown signs of being stagnant. It's not just about the record. It's about the trajectory. And if you're stuck in a pattern where you keep making the same mistakes, you have to ask yourself, is the head coach the problem? Or is it the system? Or is it the roster? And that's where the Patriots' lesson comes in. They didn't let pride get in the way. They made a move that many people thought was crazy at the time. They took a risk. They said, we're going to go in a different direction. And now they're in the Super Bowl. That's the kind of move that can change the culture of a franchise. It can reset expectations. It can reignite a team's identity. So yeah, you can argue all you want in the comments. But the fact remains, the Eagles need to ask themselves if they are willing to take that risk. Are they willing to make a change if it means taking the team to the next level? Because sometimes the best thing you can do is admit that the current path isn't working and do something bold. That's what champions do. That's what dynasties do. And that's what the Patriots did. Now, let's move into the main topic, the offensive coordinator search. This is where things get really interesting, because the Eagles have been linked to a number of candidates, and some of them have already been snapped up by other teams. The list has gotten smaller, and time is running out. The longer they wait, the more they risk losing out on the top options. And if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably getting tired of the waiting game. You want clarity. You want a direction. You want to know what the offense is going to look like next season. And that's the thing. The offense needs a vision. The Eagles can't keep playing like they're trying to find their identity every single year. They need someone who can come in and say, this is who we are. This is what we're going to do. Whether it's a young, innovative play caller or an experienced veteran who knows how to get the most out of a quarterback. The point is that they need a real plan. They need someone who can make the offense exciting again. So yeah, the Cowboys blocking Clayton Adams was a move that felt like a slap in the face. It was a reminder that rival teams are watching, and they're not going to make it easy for the Eagles. But at the end of the day, the Eagles need to focus on themselves. They need to pick a coordinator who can elevate the offense and give Jalen Hurts the freedom to play like a true superstar. Because right now, that's the missing piece. We're going to keep watching this situation closely, and as the candidates narrow down, we'll see who the Eagles ultimately choose. But one thing is for sure, the Eagles need to stop overthinking it. They need to pick a direction, commit to it, and build from there. Otherwise, they're going to keep repeating the same patterns, and that's not how you win championships. Now, before we get into the real meat of this, let's talk about the coaching carousel and how the Eagles have handled it so far. Because honestly, the way this has played out is a little frustrating. It's not that the team hasn't tried. It's not that they haven't been active. It's that the decisions and the timing have been questionable. You can't keep dragging your feet when you have a roster that is built to win right now. This is not a rebuild. This is not a we'll figure it out in a couple of years situation. The Eagles are in the prime window, and you can feel it. You can feel the urgency. So when the team starts making moves like trying to interview the Cowboys' offensive coordinator, you have to question the logic behind it. It's one thing to look for the best candidate, but it's another thing to chase a move that's going to create friction and potentially damage relationships. The Cowboys are a division rival. That's not just a fun fact. That's a real barrier. The Eagles should have known what would happen. And when Jerry Jones stepped in and blocked the interview, it wasn't just a power move. It was a statement. It was a reminder that the Eagles can't just treat the division like a free agency playground. There are rules, and there are consequences. The Eagles tried to make a lateral move, and it backfired. They didn't get the guy, and now they're left scrambling again. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, the Cowboys got Christian Parker because it was a promotion. That's true, but that's the point. Promotions are different. Promotions are understandable. They are part of the league's natural movement. But when you try to poach a coordinator from a rival and you're not offering a promotion, you're basically asking for trouble. It was never going to work. And even if it had worked, was it worth it? Was it worth the tension? Was it worth the distraction? I don't think so. The Eagles need to be smarter than that. They need to focus on building a sustainable coaching structure, not chasing headlines. But the bigger issue here isn't the Cowboys. It's the fact that the offensive coordinator search is getting smaller and smaller, and the Eagles still haven't made a decision. You have candidates being snapped up left and right. Arthur Smith goes to Ohio State. That's one of the names that's already off the board. And then you've got the other options that are still in play, but time is ticking. You got guys like Jim Bob Cooter, Brian Dable, Matt Nagy, and the list goes on. And here's the thing. You have to ask yourself what kind of offense you want. Do you want a veteran play caller who has been there and done that? Or do you want a younger, innovative mind who can bring a new identity to the team? The Eagles are at a crossroads, and that's the reality. The team is built with talent. The offensive weapons are there. The defense is there. The roster is stacked. But without a clear vision on offense, you're just guessing. You're hoping. And hope is not a strategy. The Eagles need someone who can take this roster and maximize it. Someone who can make the offense dynamic and unpredictable. Someone who can give Jalen Hurts the freedom to be the playmaker he is. Because when he's in rhythm and he's allowed to make plays, the Eagles are one of the most dangerous teams in the league. But the problem is that the Eagles have been stuck in this cycle of conservative play calling. And it's not just about the coordinator. It's about the culture. It's about the way the team approaches the game. You can't have a roster like this and play like you're trying not to lose. That's not how championships are won. Championships are won by teams that are willing to take risks and play with confidence. That's what the Patriots did. That's what the Seahawks did. And that's what the Eagles need to start doing. Now, let's talk about the narrative that nobody wants to come to Philadelphia. You hear that a lot. And it's one of those phrases that people throw around like it's a fact. But is it really? The Eagles are a storied franchise. They have passionate fans. They have a great roster. They have a quarterback who is one of the best in the league. So why would someone not want to come here? The answer is simple. The perception of dysfunction. The perception that the organization is unstable. The perception that the coaching staff is not supported. That's the problem. And if the Eagles want to attract top-tier coaching talent, they have to change that perception. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are growing around the Eagles facility after an explosive moment attributed to head coach Nick Sirianni, a moment that, if true, suggests a fracture deeper than any playbook tweak or sideline adjustment. According to locker room chatter making the rounds, Sirianni reportedly lost his temper behind closed doors and delivered a line that stunned those within earshot. "We have 2 locker room cancers, and I will eliminate both." Whether spoken in the heat of frustration or calculated as a message, the remark has quickly become fuel for speculation across the league. Sources close to the situation insist the comment was not meant for public consumption, which only adds to its gravity. The idea of locker room cancers hints at internal discord, personalities clashing with the program, or veterans and younger players pulling in opposite directions. In a league where unity is preached as loudly as execution, the suggestion that 2 figures are poisoning the atmosphere raises uncomfortable questions about leadership, accountability, and the limits of patience. Around the Eagles, the rumor has sparked debate over who might be in Sirianni's crosshairs. Some believe it points to outspoken veterans challenging authority, others to frustrated contributors unhappy with their roles. There is also the possibility that the quote, while harsh, was rhetorical, a coach attempting to shock his roster into focus rather than signal an impending purge. Even so, the language itself reflects tension that can no longer be hidden by press conference smiles. Front office silence has only amplified the buzz. In modern locker rooms, words carry weight, and metaphors like these tend to linger long after the door is closed. If Sirianni truly feels compelled to eliminate internal problems, it suggests the Eagles may be approaching a crossroads where cultural reset becomes as important as any schematic change. For now, it remains rumor, but in the NFL, rumors often have a way of revealing uncomfortable truths before anyone is ready to confirm them. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.